Hello, are you there, Tiff?
I'm here.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to get started. Welcome to Advocacy Arena, the place we bring awareness and solution oriented focus to issues. I'm here today with Tiff, aka Candidly Tiff, wife, mom, Maryland resident, born and raised in Brooklyn, Afro Latina. You can also find Tiff on TikTok at Veeps Peeps Blog and IG as Candidly Tiff. And Tiff and I met in social media, and I am so happy that she agreed to come and join me here in the advocacy arena. And we're going to get started and bring some awareness to some of her work. And one of the first things that I'd like to ask you, Tiff, is like, how did you get interested in politics? Because that's how we met in the political circles of Twitter.
Well, hey, Miss D, how are you this evening? Start first and foremost. I am, honestly, I think I've always loved politics, and since I was a little girl, my parents were always, watching the news, and we always kind of kept up with what was going on. But I guess my earliest memory of, politics was David Dinkins winning when I was about 7 or 8 years old. And so I remember, his election and my parents being like so excited that he was going to be the first black mayor of the city
Right.
we lived in. So
Mm.
that was kind of my first experience probably with politics and just kind of, like I said, watching it on the news. But that's kind of when I got my love for politics. And then as I got older in high school, we focused on government and trying to, talk through civics when we actually had civics classes. And so I was, I wanted at one point in my youth, I wanted to be a politician.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, then I kind of morphed until I got into college and I was like, yeah, this is probably not for me. And but I always loved social studies and I've always loved history. So I was thinking about becoming a social studies teacher. That was my major in college, focused mostly on sociology and
Wow.
political science. So I always had like a passion for it, but it wasn't something that I knew I wanted to pursue as like a career. Once I got college, I was like, yeah, this is probably not it. Because I started working in the healthcare, administration field, and that kind of pulled me away from the political aspect of it. But to be honest, there is still a lot of politics where, in terms of, in anything that we do, there's always politics, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So when I moved to Maryland in 2000, I'll be honest, in New York, politics is very simple, right? You go, you vote, and that's it. There's not a big political scene like most people think, as there is here in Maryland or other places in the South where they're having events all the time and things like that. You kind of just you need to do and go about your business. And when it comes time to primaries, you vote, and when it comes to general election, you go and vote and do your thing. So unless you're really really into politics. So I
Hmm.
never was really into politics when I lived in Maryland, I mean, sorry, in New York. But then once I moved to Maryland, it was 2007, and we were gearing up for 2008 with the Obama campaign and against Hillary, for the primary. And that's when I kind of started getting a little bit more into, okay, what is really happening in this country and what is really happening with politics. Maybe I need to get a little bit more involved. So I always paid attention and knew what was going on. And then I joined Twitter in 2011. And oddly, I joined Twitter because for sports purposes, but I also used it just to kind of keep up with everything that was going on, because people in the news always talked about Twitter like being this
Hmm.
format where people connect, and the
Right.
new politicians were on there. And so I started kind of paying more attention on Twitter to politics. But I always use Facebook as my source to talk to family and other people about whatever was on my mind politically. And then in 2016, with obviously that election with Trump winning,
Right.
I figured, okay, this is not the place for me, because I was getting in arguments with my family and my uncle. and it was like crazy.
That's
So
when I was done.
yeah, I was like, all right, Facebook is not the place or the format for this kind of discourse. So I became more active on Twitter. And in 2017, I started kind of building my account and, talking about my feelings. I was always on Twitter. I never wrote down my feelings. Like I would comment on stuff, but I never really tweeted. I just watched other people, how they did it, and kind
Hmm.
of came that way. So
Right.
finally in 2017, with everything that was going on, my first memory was like of Trump was like that Muslim ban. You know what I mean? Like that was
Oh
the
my God. Visceral. Yes.
yes,
Yes.
I was so pissed off. I started tweeting and I was like, I can't stand this man. And it was just a whole thing. And then that just kind of gave me the confidence to be on Twitter and talk about my, political feelings and what we were all experiencing together. And I found, community, people who were of like mind and had the same kind of, discourse that I was looking for. And there was agreements, there was disagreements, and then I think I really got very much into it with the Kavanaugh craziness. And I
Hmm.
was like, yeah, no, we can't let this stand. So that's when became super charged. And then immediately after that was when Kamala Harris jumped into the race. And then I became very, very, very active on Twitter, talking about, what my feelings on her, what was going on with the debates, what was happening, and then kind of built my platform from there. And then when she got out, Biden. So it kind of like snowballed into that. But I've always loved politics. It's always been my thing. But life is strange, and so
It takes you
sometimes
in
you
so many different directions.
exactly. So I was into it when I was young. I kind of felt, I got married, was trying to have a baby. Like there was a lot of things going on. And then
Right.
finally it was like to a point where, okay, this is where we are. And now I can focus on this a little bit more. And that's what I've been doing the last 2 years, is really kind of focusing on, civics and teaching people, about, the Senate and how we hadn't had a Senate majority in a really long time. And so
Right.
you try to use my voice to do that, to be able to kind of spread awareness and use my skills, that I had learned in college in social studies, which, like I said, I wanted to be a teacher, and use that as part of my platform to kind of, hopefully, educate people on the political process more so than saying, okay, this is who you need to vote for. It's like, okay, this is what you need if you are going to pass a bill, or this is what we need if we want to kill the filibuster, or
Right.
it's for even if it was for campaigns, it was really more so, okay, how do they win, what is their strategy, that kind of thing. It's morphed into strategy, politics more than anything at this point,
Well,
more so than
that's taking me to the next
yep.
question I was gonna ask you is like, how has it evolved? Because I think that most people who end up really working in it, they probably always had a little something there, like you said, and but they may not have, like pursued it or whatever. But so how would you say that it's evolved? That you were starting to speak to that in terms
Yeah.
of like, strategizing.
Yeah, I think it initially started, like I said, with just putting my feelings, like, like I look at Twitter like a diary. So it's like, dear diary, this is what
Okay.
I'm feeling for today, this or this. And then, people
Hmm.
start commenting. But then I felt like, okay, I never said, okay, well, this is what I want to do. It kind of just happened organically, where, I was in the K Hive, and, people were, starting to listen to the things that I was saying about Kamala. And they were listening, and even more so probably when, she dropped out and Joe Biden was the front runner. And I was like,
Right.
okay, I really don't want Bernie Sanders to win, or Elizabeth Warren. So I really supercharged, my tweeting, and kind of got really focused on the strategy piece of it. Okay, this is what Joe Biden needs to do to win. No one, it didn't matter if anyone was listening to me, but people were starting to listen to what I was saying and
That's
realizing,
amazing.
yeah,
Like
like
you
what
were
I was
just
saying
like,
was,
this is
yeah.
what we need to do, and
Oh yeah, I used
anybody
to make
that's
lists.
listening.
Yeah, I used to make lists. I used to have like bullet points of things that I felt like Joe Biden should do in order to win, or whatever strategy. And then it would come true. He would do it, and then it would come true. And then people were like, "Oh, Sip, you said that."
Uh-huh.
So it kind of like evolved from there. And then, then it was then it was, once we knew he won the primary, then it was like, okay, how do we get Kamala Harris to be VP? right? Not that Joe Biden
Mm-hmm.
listens to any of us on social media, but we know people watch. So I went on a whole campaign to try to figure out a way, to just boost her up so that people could see. And then that was like during a period of, like the George Floyd,
Mm-hmm.
death and police reform. And,
Right. A
she
lot
was
going on.
constantly on TV. So she made it easy for us to be, and especially myself, to be able to kind of promote the fact that she would be a great VP. And then
Mm-hmm.
that happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was almost like people, I would say I'm not prescient in any kind of way, but sometimes I can be, just kind of like fortune telling to see kind of, what I think is the best thing, going forward. Is it,
Right. Well, like
so
kind of critical thinking skills
exactly.
and a type of instinctiveness, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, it's logic. It's mostly logic, like using logic to figure out who is the best person in a specific race, or how do we defeat person, or how do we, win elections. Like these are kind of things that I was thinking about. And like I said, it was just, taking my time and writing tweets. And then once all those things happened and Biden won the election, it was like, okay, what do we do? What do we do next? Like we've been fighting for 2 years. Now
Right.
what? Right. And
We got the
so
prize. Now
yeah,
what?
exactly. So then it kind of went to, okay, well, where are we at now? Then there was like I think the next step was me and my crew of people that I roll with. You're one of them sometimes,
Yes.
we kind of thought, what are we gonna do next? But then there was like a special election for Melanie Stansbury in I think it's New Mexico. Is it New Mexico? Yeah, New Mexico, where that was Deb Haaland's seat, and she had left to go work in the Biden administration.
Right.
And we were like,
Secretary of Interior.
exactly. And we were like, okay, how do we get this woman to be elected? So we were like, okay, let's use our voices and, boost her up and talk about her. And what do we do next? Then so we did that, and then she ended up getting elected. And then the next thing was the I call it the election from the primary from hell, which was Nina Turner against
Mm.
against Chantel Brown.
Trauma.
Yeah, that was the drama. So we were like, okay, well, what can we do to help her? Right? She's going Chantel Brown. We had heard about her. We kind of knew about her, but we started seeing her a little bit more. And I said, okay, well, this is my new mission. I'm going to help this woman get elected. And so my a group of friends and I, which is Veeps, we were always people that supported Kamala, and it was about
Mm-hmm.
20 of us. And we said, okay, well, let's use our platform and let's start raising some money for Chantel Brown. And so we did that. That was our kind of our first election that we were like, let's try our hand at this. We've seen people do it, raising money. Let's see if we can collectively put ourselves together and, just see if we can get donations for her.
Wow. I did
And
not know that she was the first one that you did it for.
she was the first one. And so we ended up raising $11,000 for her. And we had no clue what we were doing, like not a clue. We were like, okay, I just knew I set up the page, the Act Blue page. We did the page, and you know what? People were receptive to it. They did not like Nina Turner, so it made it a whole lot easier for people to donate.
Right.
And they did. And then that's kind of when I was starting to make videos. Like I didn't know how to make videos. Like I had no clue, but I got a program, like an app, and I just started.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Exactly. So I said, okay, well, how can I get this information out there? Started making videos and, like, just videos of what was happening, speeches.
Mm-hmm.
Her team wasn't really putting her out there like that. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, all right, well, I'm gonna put her out there. So Jeff, one of our friends, Jeff, he like a lot of stuff they were putting on Facebook. He would send me the link. I would cut a video, put it on Twitter, and everyone would get to know her.
Okay.
So that was kind of how we had went with it. Then there was like a big drama because Nina Turner and what's his name, Killer Mike, there was like a scene where
Right.
he was talking about Jim Clyburn, and then someone else in the group created a video. Then there was like a whole thing with the after that there was the pastors in Cleveland. They got upset about everything that was being said, and Nina Turner, she was going back and forth with them, and they had a video and that went viral. So it was like a lot of viral things that were happening at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of how I got into TikTok.
Okay.
So I wasn't on TikTok until then. So the day after that a day after Chantel won the primary, I was being very petty, and I was like, you know what? I said to Renee, I said, I think I'm gonna join TikTok and I'm gonna make videos. I'm telling you, these things just happen like just oddly. So I just said, okay, well, I'm gonna make videos, and that's what and then I started making videos, and that's when I started doing my weekly videos on, what was happening in the Biden administration, because I felt like there wasn't really um a, a way for people to really simply understand what was happening in the Biden administration.
Right.
We had the news, but the news isn't always going to tell us everything we need to know, or it can be biased. And so I said, you know
Or
what,
not
let me.
put in terms that, just average folks easily understand.
Exactly. So I said, you know what? Let me use my voice and break down some of the top stories of the week of what was happening, in the Senate, in the House. I think at that point we were trying to, get some legislation passed that was Build Back Better. There was a lot that was happening in terms of legislation, because that was Biden's, first year that
Mm-hmm.
he was in office, and there was lots of arguments that were happening on Capitol Hill.
Right.
So I would do different segments, and I would do, we were still in COVID, and I would talk about COVID. I would talk about job numbers. I would talk about, whatever was
So
happening. And
bringing, like bringing awareness to the actual
exactly.
legislation and the work that was being done, bringing that
Exactly.
to the masses and not leaving it just for the political pundits to talk about.
Exactly. And like I said, and it was a 2-minute video of just breaking down, because Twitter only allows 2 minutes, 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So it was 2 minutes and 20 seconds of breaking down the news for the week.
Mhm.
And if people were receptive to it, and people would watch it, and I put it on Twitter and Instagram, and also on, like I said, I made it on TikTok. And so it kind of brought awareness to what was happening in this country, politically, what the Republicans were doing or not doing, what Biden was doing. I used to also do like a segment, because people used to say, where's Kamala? And I would say, and I'm like, she's right there. So I would do also on Fridays sometimes. I did it for maybe like 7 or 8 weeks, and I would just track what she was doing for the week, so that people could see that our VP was actually doing the work, and she was doing it well. And so I did these videos up until March, every single week, from August all the way to March from August 2021 until March 2022.
Wow.
And like I said, I did end up getting tired, because after the new year of 2022 is when I really got supercharged in trying to help Connor Lamb in
Hmm.
Pennsylvania try to win
Working
his.
some other elections
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
this was a very hot election year
It
that we
was.
had, which brings me to something else that I want you to talk about. You are so talented. I can't believe this, and I'm so thankful to be able to like get some of the backstory on some of your work. But you talked about Chantel Brown being the first one that you decided to
Mhm.
raise money for. But I also know that in this previous hot election season that we had, that you and a team of other folks raised a lot of money for some other folks. You want to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. Yeah, so as I was saying with Connor Lamb, we got hot and heavy into that election, right? There was, John Fetterman, and there was Connor Lamb, and so we ended up, he was our second person, and we
Mm-hmm.
ended up raising $25,000 for him.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he didn't win his primary, which was in May, but all along we were, behind. He was our main focus from that point on. But we were also raising money for, Val Demings, who was running for Senate in Florida. And we were also raising money for Sherry Beasley, who was running for Senate in North Carolina. So our focus was mainly on Senate candidates and trying to get people elected who we thought were, you know, good candidates
Right.
for those races. Because our goal, which was our hashtag, which was 53 pickup, we wanted to
Right.
get 53 senators so that we could make Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema irrelevant.
Okay. And I was down with that plan.
Yeah. So I mean, we and in the end, for Sherry Beasley and Val Demings, we ended up raising about $125,000.
That blew me away when I saw,
Yes.
the work that, I mean, you guys deserve so much praise for that. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it wasn't something that I did alone, of course. It was myself and mainly Crystal, Michelle, Chris, you know,
Hmm.
a lot of people put in time and work, you know, sending messages constantly, you know, saying, "Hey, we need to meet this goal." And you know, we ended up exceeding our goal because our goal was always to hit 100,000, and
Hmm.
then we ended up getting to 125,000, which
I know.
which was great. You know, we didn't expect it. I was surprised that we could even hit 50,000. I mean, you're asking people for their hard-earned money,
Hmm.
you know, via Twitter. I mean, it wasn't like it's not like
Right.
we're professionals at this,
Exactly.
or we even knew, like I said, we didn't know what we were doing in
Y'all
front,
weren't
but
campaign strategists or anything.
exactly. It was the power. It's the power of persuasion, right? If you have a good,
Right.
you know, and Sherry Beasley and Val Demings, they had, you know, they were running good campaigns. Unfortunately, they were in states where, you know, they just couldn't get elected because people didn't either, you know, vote, or, you know, it's a red state or a purple state. And so it was a tough battle, but I don't think anyone regrets, you know, obviously donating to them, because we need a black woman in the Senate, and they were
Right.
two really good shots that we had, and it was an investment, right? It was an investment into them,
Exactly.
and I don't
Hmm.
regret it at all.
Right. And I think it just shows what can be done. Like, that was kind of like those were your first three attempts. So, it is something now you have a little experience with. You know how to do this. You know how obviously to choose and vet candidates. And, that's just part of it. Now, you work to get people out of their seats, so to speak, to get them to the polls, and we're
Right.
fighting a lot of battles, so which is why you do a lot of the stuff that you do, because part of what the work that I do in advocacy arena and my democracy first talks is to try to get people engaged, and certainly voting, but also out there, amplifying the stories and the information that people like you provide, and just making sure that we get it is to as many people as possible. And one of the things that I really liked, that you helped me and our community a lot with, that I'd like you to share a little bit about statistical analysis. Like, you blew me away with that. You and there are a couple of other people who are really good at that, and I wanted you to talk a little bit about that, like how you were drawn to it, and how you use it, what tools that you use, like how does that um, play a role in your work, your political activism.
All right. So this one is pretty interesting, because if anybody knows me, they know I despise math. Like, I cannot stand math. It is not my thing. I cannot stand. I was terrible at math from the time I was young until college. Like, I was terrible at it. But the reason I got into political statistics and looking at polls and things like that actually came from the New York mayoral primary. So there was constantly polls that they were putting out, and they were saying, you know, they were talking Adams, who had the chance, and in that race they were doing what is it called? You know, when they ranked choice.
Rank choice.
So it was a different kind of race. It was the first time they ever had done this in New York. And there was a lot of like drama around polling. It was polling correct? Was it not? And obviously everybody knows 2016, you know, polling was not accurate. Like that,
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of inaccurate polls because people were
Right.
using national polls versus using statewide polls,
Mm-hmm.
and that was causing issues. So I took a deep dive into, and I will give Mr. Geechee, aka Greg, props for showing me how to read polls. I didn't know how to read a poll, and he said, okay, this is what you do. You go in there, because he is Mr. Data, Mr. Math.
Okay.
And he said, okay, Tiff, this is how you go in there and look at it. And so all I was doing was really comparing polls, right? What is it in the poll that you really want to see?
Mm-hmm.
There is, it's not about the top line number, 50% versus 47%. There is data within the polls that is what you're trying to extrapolate. So what you're trying to get out of there is, okay, how are people responding in this poll if they are women, if they are men, if they are Latino, Black, Asian, white, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are those people thinking? How are
What
they
story
responding?
is it
Yeah,
telling?
there's a story within polls that I didn't realize was there until I really started to examine them.
Mm-hmm.
And so after that race, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna really take a deep dive. And there was constantly poll. We know that there was constantly polls about Joe Biden's, job performance and
Right.
Kamala Harris's job. So that kind of morphed into, okay, this is about an election, but it more morphed into, what are these people trying to say? Because I don't, there is not, a top number means literally nothing to me.
Nothing. Yes.
But I need to know how, women who are Latino are thinking about this race, or
Mm-hmm.
women who are white women. We always talk about white women, the 53%, right? How are they going to vote in this election, or how are they viewing Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or whatever person that we're polling this day?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started using that to my advantage to say, okay, well, let's look at this. Let me see what these people are thinking. And then I started using that, especially in the Pennsylvania race, I was using that to kind of see where things were. Then I started using it in my own state, which was, which Westmore ended up winning for governor. We had a huge
Right.
election here. Using that, there wasn't very many polls. So for me, that race was more about what was happening on the ground. Now, is polling, polling can be subjective. It really is, what someone is feeling on any given day. And
Mm-hmm.
you could look at three polls in three different, from the same day, and they all say totally different things, because
Right.
they're talking to different people, and it is only, a subset of people, 1,000 people, maybe 300 people, and they all have different reasons why they don't like this person, or it could be something that happened during the week in the news, or the economy, inflation.
Mm-hmm.
People have different reasoning. So that's what I used it for. And I don't really love polls, but I told a story based on what I was seeing in the polls.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. And like I said, I relied on it a lot to help, in our conversations in Democracy First, which is, was very, civic minded and engaged. But again, like during these elections, some of this data held a lot of compelling information. And I looked to you and Greg and a few others who were able to translate that to us in a way that we could understand. So it would help us to understand, where we may need to do more work and focus more attention or how to go about that.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that I don't think people understand about polls. It is not really for us. It is really for the campaign, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're paying money for people. Most times you're paying money, especially doing internal polls, you're paying money to find out data about people.
Mm-hmm.
These companies are paying, usually, some of them are independent, but like, let's say a CBS, right? They're paying money for a pollster to go and gather this data. So
Mm-hmm.
we have a responsibility as, citizens to look at the poll. Do you have to believe every single poll? No, but there is something. But most people don't really know how to read them, so they're just going off of, okay, well, Biden is at 45, 44%.
Taking that top number
Yeah,
because
and they're
most of
not.
the time that's what the media is just giving you, and they
Exactly.
formulate their narrative from
Yeah,
that
and I
top
think what
number.
I really got out of those polls is where Black voters are, where Latino voters are. I knew Catherine Cortez Masto was going to win the Senate race in in Nevada based on
Right.
polls. I knew it based on polls because
You said that from the
I
very
looked at her
beginning.
numbers, compared them to Biden's in 2020. I also saw where I said to a few people, I said, they're taking advance. They're not polling enough Black people in Nevada.
Mm,
And I could see that in every poll they only had like a small, like maybe 100 or 200 Latinos, and they weren't talking to Black voters. And I'm comparing that to what she's doing. I'm seeing her at campaign events with a bunch of Black people and a bunch of
okay.
Latinos, and I'm like, okay, so her team is seeing the same thing that I'm seeing. Go
Uh-huh.
get those voters. And so that's
Okay.
really should be doing, in my opinion, is looking at the polls and saying, okay, this is what we need to do. And
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes, I have seen campaigns, I've talked to campaigns that this is what they're doing. They know the demographics that they need to hit, and they try to get those people to vote. So they can target specific areas. Philadelphia, for instance, we knew that there needed to be more work done in Philadelphia, right?
Right.
I mean, you have to use your logic.
Mhm.
Politics is mostly about logic, in my
Right.
opinion,
Me
and
too. I
strategy.
would agree
So
with it. Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's kind of what it was.
Well, thank you so much, and like I said, I so appreciate all of the work that you did in that area, and coming in to share it with us and helping a lot of the people in our community, understand the story behind the polls, that information. So I have a couple of more questions that I'd like to ask you before you go,
Okay.
and I wanted to know if you feel like the work that you have done, whether that's the fundraising, the videos, the polls, the statistical analysis, and that sort of thing. Do you feel like your work has made a difference?
I think so. Yeah, no, I definitely think so. I hear it more so when I'm talking to like candidates and they're so excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I see Wes Moore, he's like, "Thank you so much for all you've done. I appreciate it
Right.
so much." And I'm just like, "Okay." Like
Yes,
it
and that's a
stuns
good
me.
gauge.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it stuns me because I have never done it for anything other than, my most of it is for myself to be able to kind of get my message out, to not because I need to get it off of my brain and out of my head. And I'm like, okay, this is what this is what I feel, and so I kind of just go with it. It's instinctual for me.
Right.
And then, there's other candidates that I've talked to, and they're like, thank you so much for all you've done. People thank me all the time for, giving them the data, and they have come to rely and trust me, which I appreciate. I don't expect anyone to trust what I say or take what I say, to believe everything that I say, because some of the stuff that I say is based on my own opinion. And
Right.
but when it comes to facts, those facts cannot be disputed because there's always receipts
Data.
to and data to prove what I'm saying. And
Mm-hmm.
so I definitely think it has made a difference. Has it changed hearts and minds? I don't know, but I do know that there are people that come into my messages and say, because you talked about Westmore, it persuaded me to vote for him,
Then
or
you change the
or
mind and
it
the heart.
yeah. So in that way, yes, I think people just didn't necessarily know about him. So
Mm-hmm.
by me using my platform to be able to show who he was, and what he was all about, and going to events, and or even just talking about Kamala Harris, like a lot of people, may have learned things that they normally wouldn't have learned had I not been showing it on social media. So I guess in a way, yes, I think I have made a difference. I don't know that it's not anything astronomical. It's not even something that I plan to do or wanted to do. I've never been paid for it. It's just really something that I'm passionate about. And like I said, mostly for me to kind of just get my thoughts out. Like I said, it's almost like Dear Diary. And
Right.
and I
I
just use
love
it.
that you explain it that way. I would never have thought about it that way, but that is a good way to look at it. I might have to rethink the way that I tweet, my approach to tweeting, because it's just not something that I have a a grasp and a knack for. I do love it, because it is, it's a great source of information, and it's a great tool.
Yeah,
So I
and it's a
always like
skill.
to learn
It
how
is an
to
actual
use it
skill, to
better.
be honest. It is a skill. To tweet is a skill. Like, to tweet effectively. Like, I watched people for years. Like I said, I
Hmm.
didn't even tweet. I used to watch people and how they tweeted, and you only have but so many characters to get your point across, and
I know.
you have to have brevity. A lot of people don't have that, and so that is
Yes.
also it. Like, you have to be able to state what you want in 200 and what is it, 240 characters now. I mean, at one point it was less than that,
Right.
or 280 characters. And you have to be able to express your point in a very short time and be effective at it. And
Hmm.
so it is a skill that you have to learn. And I get why a lot of people don't want to put their thoughts in words.
Hmm.
It's kind of like blogging, right?
Right.
If you're a blogger, you want to go and you want to write about whatever on any given day. I use Twitter in that way. Like, I'm blogging about whatever I see in any given day, in any single hour that
Yeah, and
compels
I
me to write
like
about.
to blog, but I don't know. It's something about that character limit that freezes my brain. Like, it's like I can I do, but my brain freezes and it's like uh.
That's so funny.
But I'm going to keep working on it, and I'm using people like you, Renee, and others as my mentors and role models.
Yeah, Renee is excellent at it. She could write one
Yes,
sentence and it goes viral, and
I know.
I'm
Like,
like, how is this even possible? Like, and it's so, and Twitter is such a weird place, because
um,
you can the tweets that you don't really think
expect.
about or expect will go viral, and the tweets that you worked on for days and threads, and you get like 5 likes. Like, it doesn't even make
I
sense.
can totally agree because like I said, I don't know what I've done, but I have had that happen. And like you say, I don't know, and I sometimes I go back and look at those. But I'm watching you and Renee and the others who have got the knack for this, and I'm learning from you. So I appreciate that, and I want to ask you another question about who your political influences are. Like, I appreciate the passion that you have for politics, and like your beginning entry into it from a very young age. But who would you say, and it doesn't have to be one person, but who would you say your political influences are? People that you, in the political arena, that you admire, look up to, or, are guided by in your political thought process?
Yeah, I think overall, I mean, Kamala Harris is like the queen of everything to me.
Okay.
Obviously, everybody knows that. I mean, I've met her. Like, I really enjoy, everything about her. And granted, I don't agree with her on every single thing. Sometimes I do have critiques about her. But I think from a personal perspective, from a political perspective, I think for me, I see myself in her as a
Mm-hmm.
person who represents everything that I would want to be, right? She's
Mm-hmm.
joyful, she's
Mm-hmm.
always laughing. She can get sassy with you if you mess with her.
Right. I
But
loved her when she was on the committees. The
exactly. Like, I just see myself within her, and so she always inspires me. Like, she is like the number one inspiration, I think, in politics. Like I said, I'm a big fan of hers, but I also understand, I'm not always going to agree. Same with Barack Obama. I didn't
exactly
always agree
right.
with him,
But
but
you appreciate what they stand for, their character,
exactly. Their
and all of
character, their
that.
work ethic,
Hmm.
their experience, like, those are things that no one can take away from Kamala Harris or Barack Obama. And so I've always appreciated that about both of them. And they can get a little what is they I can relate to them. And I think that's the thing we were talking about the other day about, like, Hakeem Jeffries. Like, he inspires me, right? He's from Brooklyn. You
Mhm.
know, Chuck Schumer inspires me. He's also from Brooklyn.
Mhm.
And I see these people and I'm like, okay, these people are from where I'm from. Chuck Schumer used to be my congressman, right? I've seen him at every event in Brooklyn, like at every school event, graduations. Like I've been to so many graduations where he's at. He's always been there. He's always done the work. So
Mhm.
anybody to me who does the work is somebody I appreciate. So I'm inspired by the new people, right? New people in Congress.
Mhm.
I like Ashantel Brown, who we helped. You know, I didn't help her per se, but we advocated for her, and
Right.
I see her doing the work in Congress, and I'm like, damn it, we knew it from the beginning. Or
Mhm. There's just
Lauren,
certain people
yeah,
that
like
you want to see succeed and you want to help them.
exactly, yeah,
And one of mine's, of course, it's no secret, John Lewis. You
yep,
know, I mean,
exactly.
yes.
Exactly. And these are the people that inspire you. Like I don't have like Kamala Harris is probably the only one that I would say like she's my, you know, my inspiration for all, but
Mhm.
all these other people give me something every single day to be like, okay, these people are working really, really hard, and it makes me want to work really, really hard. Of course, Nancy
Right.
Pelosi
Oh yes.
will always be queen. Because she's somebody that I look up to, right? There's
She
people
is such
that
an astute politician and
exactly. The
just
strategy, like her
mhm.
strategy is amazing. And the things that she thinks about. And I always laugh because she's an Aries as well as I. We're like, our
Oh,
birthdays are a couple of days apart.
okay.
So I always see kind of like, I think about
The
her in that way, like the
personality.
personality wise, like, yeah, don't mess with Nancy. And so
I
she, you know,
love it. And
yeah,
John Lewis's replacement, what's her name? Nakima
Nakima,
Williams.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Yes, she calls her Fancy Nancy. I love it.
That's
It's so
cute. Yeah, yeah.
cute.
Like how can you not? I mean, how could you not love Nancy Pelosi? I mean, she's amazing. So there are people that I definitely. I mean, even like a Richie Torres who just
Oh,
came
I
into the
love
Congress.
him. I
I
am
love
just
him.
starting to fall in love with him.
Oh my god, I love him. And it's not even about like some people like he's a progressive and people say, well, you know, you're in a centrist or what. I'm like, dude, I like people. If you do the work, I don't care what you are, just
And your
do the work,
work is
and
is
I
working
will
toward the right
appreciate you.
goals and things. Yeah.
Exactly. I will
Mhm.
appreciate you and I will respect you. I love a Lauren Underwood.
Mhm.
She does a great job. Joe Goose. Like there's so many
Yes.
people that are in the Congress that are doing amazing work. And I feel like those are the people that we should uplift and, you know, promote on our
Mhm.
timelines and in our advocacy so that people can get to know them just like how we are getting to know them and see that they are doing the work that needs to be done for our country.
Well, thank you for doing that because I would agree wholeheartedly with that, which is part of the reason I wanted to have this conversation with you. And as I told you, I hope it will be the first of many. And my last question to you is what do you foresee? What are your plans for the future, for your future goals, in this arena?
I cannot tell you what they are because I really don't know. As I explained in the beginning, it kind of just comes to me as I start going through the process, right? So
Hmm.
I get, I hate to use this word, but I get these like epiphanies, like this is what I
No,
need to
that
do.
makes total sense to me because
Like,
you're moved, and I love
yeah,
that you
yeah. I
will
mean, I think I
wait
told
until
you.
you're inspired. You know.
Right. I exactly. And I think I told you this the other day and I said it on, you know, on a space where, you know, I was watching Hakeem Jeffries and he was talking that night and you know, we were all watching him with his ABC speech
Uh
uh,
huh.
on the floor, you know, after the speaker vote and he inspired me. You know, what he said inspired me to be like, okay, well, what are we going to do next? Because I wasn't defeated in any way possible, but
Just
I
a
was
little
just
tired.
tired. Right, I was
Hmm.
tired, and I'm like, I look for signs. I look, you know, people. I sometimes I get in my woo woo stuff, and I look for signs, and I look for things like, okay, what is going to motivate me or move me this week? What is going to be, you know, what am I going to do? Like I don't know. So sometimes things just come to me. So if I see something, I may go make a video on TikTok, or if I if I see something and it's pissing me off, that will move me too. But I don't really know what my future is in politics. I mean, if there is no future, that's fine. It's kind of a flyby thing. Like, somebody asked me, "Hey Tiff, do you want to
You,
help me with this campaign?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?" You know what I mean? Like,
right. You're
this
just
is
going to
kind
go
of
with
how
the
I
flow. Yeah.
exactly go with the flow. I this is what I call a hobby. This is
Hmm.
not something I I have my own career that I'm passionate about, but this is something that takes up my time and using it in a positive way. So rather than, watching mindless reality TV, or, talking on the phone, or, kind of gossiping and things like that, I put my mind and my passion into politics. But it also is draining. You know what I mean? It is a draining
Exactly,
thing.
because I mean, all of those things you said, I can relate to because that's what I do, because I do care about it. And, as you said, though, it can be very draining. you know so you have to
Oh
take
yeah.
time to replenish the well, so that you can keep doing the work and inspiring people. And I just want to thank you for all the work that you have done, and I know that you're going to be continuing to do that. And kind of like you, I was inspired anew with Jeffrey's speech. And I know that it is, probably just the first of many, because he had many even before that speech. He's an inspiring orator. So I'm looking forward to those and helping to amplify them, as I know you probably will be too, and amplifying, whatever work you do. So I'm looking forward to seeing whatever it is that you do, wherever you decide to go. I know that it's going to be great. So I would just
Thank
like to
you.
give you an opportunity for some closing words and thoughts, and then I'm going to just close this out here. And thank you again for giving me this time, sharing your time with me this evening.
No, you're welcome. Yeah, I think overall, I think 2023 is going to be a year of reflection. What can we do better? What can we, what can we take from what we've learned and from 2020 all the way, actually 2019 to 2022, and how can we use that in our advocacy in 2024? There's not going to be very many elections this year, so it's really a time of rest, relaxation, and trying to figure out, okay, where will this bring me? What should I do? Growing our other platforms. I would love to grow my Instagram, which you mentioned in the beginning, as well as my TikTok, so that we can reach as many people as possible in 2024, because we will have a battle on our hands. Donald Trump and the Republicans are not going anywhere, as we can see. So
Right.
it's really a matter of, okay, how can we expand? Like, we have our core audience that we have on Twitter, but how can we expand that further? And how can we evolve, what our education and our passion and our ability to be able to express our feelings about politics to a new audience? How do we get those people more involved? Because we got to get people off of the couch. We have to
Right.
get people more involved. And I think that is something if there's anything that I'm really proud of the work that we've done. I've gone to more events than I ever did in 2022 for politics, right? I've brought people along with me
I
on the
know.
journey. Those people have come. A lot of us had never done anything politically, writing letters, or
Hmm.
calling, or even texting, right?
Right.
Texting is a big thing in politics now.
And canvassing, and I
And
mean,
canvassing and going to, I mean, I've met the president, I've met the VP, I've met other people through this platform of Twitter, just getting the word out. So I am hoping that I can expand that, and I can and meet more people, and bring more people along with me on the journey, because our democracy is the most important thing. And if we don't have a democracy, guess what? We are not going to survive. So
right.
I am hopeful that, my goal, if there is a goal, is really to get more people involved in the process,
Hmm.
so that we can maintain and have a better democracy, with more Democrats in the Congress and obviously keeping the White House. Because if we don't, we're in trouble. And that also lends down to the, to the local level and the state
Hmm.
level. We need more people. That's
Yes.
my slogan for the year. We need
Hmm.
more people.
I love it. And I can get with that because we're on the same page, because you know that the work that I do in advocacy arena and, democracy first talks, it's all about getting people engaged. And I love, that you put in the work to do that. And I just want to thank you for joining me here to help continue educating people and inspiring that civic engagement. So and I love that you talked about what we need to do, because it's going we what did you say? We need more people.
We
So
need more people.
we need to build more coalitions, okay, and get some of these grassroots initiatives on the ground running, to make change, to help to create a more thriving democracy for our country. And I just want to thank you for joining me this evening. And like I said, I look forward to more talks with you. And I want to remind everyone that you can find Tiff on Twitter, which is where I met her. She's Candidly Tiff there. You can find her on TikTok. And you want to give them your TikTok and IG.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's so TikTok, it's Veeps Peeps _ blog. And then on Instagram, it's candidly _ tiff. There.
All right. Well, thanks again. And I hope you guys enjoy it and look forward to you joining us again in the advocacy arena.